Every pregnancy needs utmost care and attention. But certain pregnancies need a little extra attention. An Rh negative mother carrying an Rh positive baby is at increased risk of complications. BSV is at the forefront to ensure safe delivery in every Rh negative pregnancy.
Hello and welcome to the Outside View presented by Women's Quick Zone and brought to you by BSV, Puma, Food and Wellness, MRI Hospitals and MPL. So 132 is what Australia had to chase. Tough fight from West Indies, I would say. But to discuss the match further on, so as to how the things panned out in the match, I have alongside me Britney and Julia. Welcome both of you. So Britney said in the mid-match show that probably we would see Haley Matthews taking the charge with the opening the bowling for West Indies, and it wasn't a very bad effort from West Indies. They tried their best, just didn't have enough runs on the board. Your thoughts on the way the game panned out, Brittany?
Ah, I think West Indies could take some positive out of this game. Carrying the game into the first over is a big win with a battle lineup like Australia. So it just goes to show that that probably if they did score that extra 70 run or get that score to or extra 100 run to 30, things would have been a little more exciting, or they could have been able to put Australia under a lot more pressure. But kudos to the bowlers, for stepping up and making a game out of it.
Definitely, they made a game out of it. Rightly said, Brittany. But then we see that the way West Indies bowlers carried themselves today, we think that probably those few runs on board, few more runs on board would have been even more tougher for Australia because they did not let it be a cakewalk for Australia, Julia. So you can't take the West Indies bowling unit for granted, or you just can't write them off because a few more runs and a few we would have seen a tougher fight because we've seen them beat the stronger sides just in the recent past.
Yeah, I think this is the best I've seen them bowl. Just there was real intent, and you could see they were focused on what they needed to do. And it's always a shame that sometimes if you score lots of runs, you sort of get a little too relaxed in the field, and maybe you're not as focused as you could. And it happens with every team. I'm not just saying the West Indies. So today they knew they had to be on, and they were. They were great in the field. They bowled in really good areas. Stefani's captaincy was pretty good. I just wish she'd kept maybe Haley on a little longer just to keep that pressure on from that one end. She did a couple of double changes, but generally, I thought the West Indies were great in the field and with the ball. It just, the fact that they just hadn't scored enough runs obviously wasn't good. But now they've seen that intensity that they need to bring to their fielding. I think if they bring that every single time, they'll continue on their winning way again and get through to the semis.
Definitely, they would want to come up with an even better performance in the upcoming games. But Brittany, Julia just mentioned about their fielding in today's game, and Haley Matthews taking those catches couldn't do a larger impact with the bat, but just made it up with her bowling, taking an early wicket there, and then fielding. So having her in the side is a great asset. You've of course been in that setup. Just tell us what is the basket of skills that Haley Matthews brings to the table. Not thinking about how she went with the bat, but all she knew was I have the work in my hand with the ball and with the field, and I'm going to give my best there.
It goes to show that how important Haley Matthews' all-round skill is. As you rightfully said, she did not perform in the bat today, but she did think about okay, I didn't score any runs, so I'm not going to try to show up for the team. She did show up today. She took an important wicket, and she took two very important catches. So Haley Matthews going to be already is one of the best all-rounders in the world, and she's just going strength by strength every game.
And of course, we saw that West Indies going with Karishma Ramarak, Anisa Mohammed sitting back there. How do you look at that decision, Julia? Because she wasn't too bad with the ball. Karishma Ramarak was quite impressive, bold and economical spell there, but it was like for like replacement. So, do you think West Indies continuing with that in their upcoming games, or you see a AP Fletcher coming in?
Again, it probably comes down to the matchups that they're looking at. I thought she bowled pretty well. She's got a little bit more flight than Mohammed does. Mohammed sort of just tends to sort of skid them in. And I really liked the way that she bowled. She only got really hit in one of the overs when they just started to get a little comfortable. But that's when you can sort of maybe tweak around your bowlers a little, keep changing it up, just give her a little bit of protection. They really had a good look at her, and she certainly wasn't bowling too many loose deliveries. So I was really impressed with her. I thought she did well, and I think she's a big chance of playing a few more games.
Big chance of playing a few more games. But do you agree with that, Britney, or you have any other thoughts of Karishma Ramarak in this side? And probably you said that you would have wanted an AP Fletcher coming in to bring that kind of a variation with her leg spin to the off spinners that West Indies have.
Yeah, I know. I'm big on bringing Fletcher into the team, but as you rightfully said, coming into this game against Australia, Ramarak's first game, it showed that there are strength on the bench in terms of the bowling department. She came and she bowled some really good lines and length, and she made things difficult. Yeah, she bowls a little different from Anisa Mohammed, and it was a like for like. But I'm still about bringing in that Fletcher in to bring that variation into the team.
Probably West Indies are listening to Britney right now. Bring in AP Fletcher in the coming games. Hopefully they do, but just have a look at the scorecards to see how Australia didn't have a cakewalk there. They were tested with the West Indies bowling unit as well. Alisa Healy, of course, departed early on. A special from Rachel Haynes. We'll, of course, talk about her in a while. Meg Lannon, Julia, you said that you wanted to see her score a half century, but fine. That once in a while we can just say that predictions didn't go your way, and of course Beth Mooney then standing tall with Meg Lannon to finish things off for Australia. So let's just first have another look at the West Indies bowling. Haley Matthews, of course, there. Shamilia Cornell, both bowled quite impressive opening spell there. And Karishma Ramarak, as you guys, both of you said, that was quite economical with the bowl. And Stephanie Taylor also came into just sort of coming in and bowling a single over there. But Stephanie Taylor and Courtney Walsh, we know that these are probably two of the most important thinking tanks that would go on to decide how West Indies carry themselves. And we've often, in the recent times, we've talked about how West Indies, the team has improved in heaps and bounds since the coach has come in, and the various aspects they've worked on, Julia. So, what do you think should be the approach of West Indies heading on to the other games? Because they have important games coming in, and they wouldn't want to lose on making it to the semi-finals, considering the start they received, and they're just slipping off now. But they have two experienced thinking tanks in there. And what could be the thoughts in these times? What is the talk that go on in a dressing room? You've of course been the coach, you've been the part of the team, played cricket. So how does it go when a team is not performing?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably about trying to focus a lot on the positives, because there's always positives that are happening in each team, as well as obviously you need to address what the weaknesses are and what sort of maybe went wrong, but also really talk about those strengths and keep the confidence of the group up a fair bit. To me, as I mentioned, I thought that their bowling was great, and their fielding maybe dropped off a fraction towards the end when they probably realised it was just getting away from them a little bit, and there was a couple of little misfields, even from the superstar Deandra Dotton, who's been amazing. You don't see her misfield too often, but I just think, I just think they've got to take everything they did in the field today, take that into every single game in that same intensity, no matter how many the opposition scores. And then, as we spoke about at the innings break about their batting, it's about that constant strike rotation as well, looking for the singles as well, keeping it sort of low risk, and not completely solely relying on that top order all the time, because they do have some really good depth there. They're just not really able to rotate their strike, lose those dot balls that they've been sort of chewing up, and then putting the pressure back on themselves because they've just not rotated the strike enough. So to me, I think it's possible for them to keep going on this sort of roller coaster that they've been on a little bit in the last few days. But to me, I still think it's an excellent team. I think it's one of the strongest ones that they've had, and they just need to keep working as that unit and keep, assisting each other and keeping each other moving forward and staying positive.
Yeah, they will want to stay positive. And don't worry, Brittany, probably next time around, you could just go on with that countdown on Twitter. It wouldn't stop at where it stopped today at 3 wickets down. But of course, chasing down the total Australia, we saw that Rachel Haynes once again standing tall for the team. We've seen her journey. If we just reflect on her journey after the 2013 ODI World Cup, she was dropped. For 4 years, she waited for her chance in the team. And the kind of leadership qualities also she has shown in the absence of Meg Lannon, say in Ashes series against 2017. Her journey with the team, how would you reflect that, Julia?
Yeah, she's just and she came in as the captain as well, which was a fair bit of pressure on her when she came back in 2017. But to me, she's very understanding of her own game. She's not that flashy player that you see Elisa Healy down the other end belting them everywhere, and the same with Meg Lanning. So Rachel Haynes is pretty quiet behind the scenes, knocks the ball around, knows where her strengths are. What I liked about her today is that she just kept ticking it over despite there was a lot of scoreboard pressure. I mean, Australia were 2 for 7 at one stage, which is pretty full on, and she just kept going about her game because she had a very, very clear plan in her head about how she was going to score runs and in which areas and to which bowlers. And I think that's the beauty of the older you get. You might be getting a little less flexible, and you might be getting your eyesight might be failing a little bit, but your experience, you're locking it in up here of all the games that you've played, of how you're going to go about your own batting experience. You just get better and better as a batter the older you get. So to me, she's doing a fantastic job in that top order. Really complements what Elisa Healy can offer as well. She's really that dynamic sort of batter that's going to get everyone off to a great start. And I think that complements Rachel and just allows her to get on with her game. But today she did have to sort of change her role a little bit and ended up 83 off 95, which was an amazing effort for her. The longer she stays out there, the more runs she scores, and the acceleration is fantastic from her as well.
Flexibility, as you said, I'll take that word because taking yourself and adjusting yourself to the situation and the situation that the game demands is an important thing, and Rachel Haynes did that today. How would you tell us about the way Rachel Haynes carried herself? And she's been doing the job for a long now, Britney, for the side, and being the vice captain of the side, she of course led the team from front, played according to the match situation, as Julia said.
Rachel Haynes is just continuing to be the leader. She is, as you said, she missed a couple of years being out of the team, but as soon as she got the opportunity to be back in the team, the numbers have just been going up and up. And whether she bat on top opening batting, or if she bat in the middle, she seems she's comfortable batting in wherever the team need her. So, and that just goes to show that she's had mature so much over these years. Today inning was very classy, even though after losing 2 early wickets, a lot of people thought would have been under pressure, but I guess, as I said earlier on, that just goes to show the confidence in Australia dressing room. They don't be concerned or be flustered about how much wickets are lost or how much overs gone. They are so confident that no matter what score the team scored, the previous team scored, they are going to chase it down.
Of course, from Rachel Haynes, we'll now go to Elise Perry. She's won the player of the match for today's game, was the player of the match in the last game as well, for that amazing bowling spell that she brought on. Talking about her journey as well, Julia, she was dropped from the T20I side in the Ashes, and her form was talked about a lot ahead of the World Cup. But she's showing that experience is not something that you buy from a supermarket. It counts, and she's making it count, isn't she?
Yeah, she sort of went away from the bowling for a bit there. She was getting belted around a little bit. She just couldn't quite land it. She's tweaked a little bit with her technique, and she's constantly, and that's what I like about her, she's constantly reflecting on how she's going. Is she in the right form that she's getting? Are the balls going exactly where she wants to go? And is she executing what she wants every single time? And then you've got a batting on top of that, which Obviously there was some criticism around her recently about her strike rates and then dropping off. But the 50 over format is really her forte. She's got such a good temperament. She can accelerate. We know that she's got that acceleration, and she's worked on that in the last sort of 4 years or so, particularly in the T20 game, because she was needed to in order to hold her spot in that Australian team. And it means so much to her that she wants to keep challenging herself and improving all the time. So to me, she's still working on, even though she's been in the team, I don't know, 15 years or something ridiculous. She's still improving and trying to find other ways of getting better all the time and making and reflecting on herself and her own performances of how she went and what she can do to keep improving. So that's why, I think everyone looks up to Elise Perry. She's got a lot of respect from not just the Australians, but I think a lot of other people around the world, because they just know what a professional she is. Even in the days when it wasn't actually professional, it was still pay to play sort of style. Well, maybe not quite for Perry. That was more me, but at least that she's just such a professional about the way she goes about her game.
And she's Britney's most valuable player as well. Britney, probably you should have said that exceptions barring West Indies.
Yes, I should have, but I am happy to see that she's getting wickets. If you look against the series, I believe it's India and England they played previously. She wasn't much in the wickets column, and the fact that she, as Julia said, she didn't play the T20. She got dropped for the T20. But I think someone said, every time after whether she get dropped or she don't perform in T20, as soon as she play a test match, she tends to get form. And as Julia rightfully said, ODI is her team, so I guess a test match give her that practice to go into the ODI format, because she's her numbers been improving ridiculously, and just waiting to see, at the end of the World Cup, who's going to be MVP, because, right now Julia is on top with me with the predictions, and I need to get back on top.
Definitely. But you'll be very happy if Elise Perry is becoming the most valuable player of the match, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So 14 matches already in the World Cup, and let's just have a look at the points table. Of course, Australia will be there at the top, 8 points, 4 matches, 4 wins in a row. South Africa have, in the first 2 games, they just kind of found a way to win the game, but in the last game it was just a Marizan Cup show there. India, of course, will be playing their next game against England. Would be an interesting contest, and the hosts, of course, have won 2 matches. West Indies will be looking to come back stronger after having won those 2 games. But seeing Australia at the top, it's not a surprise for any of us here and our viewers as well, because they've entered the contest as the favorites. 31 wins from 33 matches. Insane that was, and that's showing in their performances. But Julia, the kind of changes they've been making in their setups, we are not even certain that they would go with this 11 for the next game. We might just find some other even key batters sitting out, because the team has been thinking of the conditions of the opposition and then planning according to it. Do you think this perspective and this approach of Australia is something that could, in the coming future, decide the way women's cricket will be played or it would be handled?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we saw that today, I think even with the West Indies, and I think that influence of the men's game and someone like Courtney Walsh coming into it, Matthew Mott coaching the Australian women's team, it's about horses for courses. And I think, they left Anissa Muhammad out today because of a record against Australia. We've got, it might depend on the pitch conditions. They're moving to Eden Park for the next game against India. There's some short boundaries there. Even India might bring in someone like Poonam Yadav because they know that she's had a good record against Australia in the past. So it'd be interesting if teams start changing around a little bit more, dependent on conditions of pitches as well as teams that they're playing in those matchups. It's becoming more and more important. The more professionals the teams come, obviously they're getting great feedback from all their analysts. And I think it's very much the way of the future is just to really do a lot of research on your opposition and also the nature of the pitches and the grounds that you're going to play at, just to ensure that you've got that edge over your opposition.
How would you sum up that, Britney?
Pardon?
How would you sum up that, the way Australia has been making changes and just setting an example for the oppositions?
They are showcasing why they are the number 1 team in the world. As I said earlier on, I find those technical changes are actually helping Australia grow as a team. It's showing that the management staff are behind the players and showing that the management staff is confident that no matter what their 11, that they are picking the right 11 that is suited to the opposition and conditions.
Definitely. So Australia today, of course, was chasing 132, and West Indies gave them a good fight. Didn't let that be too easy for them. Rachel Haynes started with the bat. So this was all about today's game. We'll of course join you for tomorrow's game as well between India and England. It's going to be a big contest. We'll see that how it pans out. We'll join you for the pre, mid, and post shows. But you until then, stay tuned to Women's Cricket Zone for all the updates on women's cricket.